Welcome. My name is Nicholas Warren Sturry. I am sitting here in Doric Lodge in Nashville, Tennessee on 21st Avenue. We're here with Michael Cooper.
This is the Listener's Lodge, a podcast rooted in Freemasonry. I'm your host, Mitch Denning. Welcome back to the Listener's Lodge. I have kind of a special episode for you today. We recently got together and filmed a few clips for the Nashville Valley of the Scottish Rite's Journey Passport program. Now, during that day of filming, we met Michael Cooper. Now, Michael Cooper is a muralist here in Nashville, and Doric Lodge reached out to him to paint the outside of their building. And if you would like to see images and video of the outside of Doric Lodge, you can go to the Listener's Lodge's YouTube page and find this episode and view it there. But we sat down with Michael Cooper and he told us his story. And I want to share that interview with you today. I hope you enjoy it.
The reason why we're here in this very peculiar room is because Michael has recently done a handful of murals for this building. And I'm sure that you guys can probably guess by the paint covering him. He's always busy doing
paint?
I was gonna say. You guys probably knew he was a painter before I had to introduce him. But yeah, Michael, it's really good to have you here, man.
Thank you.
And I think that
great to be here.
You know, we spent some time talking before the camera started rolling, walking around with the newest mural outside, which was completed very recently. And then you have, I guess, I don't know if the murals in the hallway would be considered one or two murals. You have the door.
It's really one mural, one project.
Yeah.
So we did the whole thing at the same time. So that would be one project.
Well, I definitely think that the best way to get the viewers up to speed with what's going on is for you to maybe tell us a little bit about your history with painting. I mean, do you remember when the first time you picked up a paintbrush was?
Oh, wow. Okay, that we didn't go over that one. I remember in the first grade getting my hand slapped by the teacher for drawing on a folder when I shouldn't be drawing on a folder instead of doing something else. I've been just doing it forever. Yeah. But it's real funny relative to murals. I've really never done any canvas work, like what somebody would call gallery work or something like that. Yeah. Just always painted on walls. I did stuff for my parents. I did stuff for my kids' schools. I did stuff in my home. I did stuff at the fraternity house. I paint big super graphics all over the walls and the logos and things like that. For churches and like the JCC or something. Always painting something, but never did canvas work. Yeah. And it was just always for fun, just a hobby.
It sounds like it came pretty natural to you.
Oh yeah. I have no idea why. Could not tell you.
Do you think that an artistic eye can be developed, or do you think it has to be a born thing?
Great question. I've had students, I teach mural classes as well, and people say, well, I can't draw a straight line. Well, first of all, neither can I. I have tools to help me do that. But you can teach people just to look, just to see where they would not have before. So yes, is there natural talent? Absolutely. I see people who can draw things that I could never do. Just sit there and draw your portrait. Yeah. You would look like a cartoon character really bad if I was to try to do that. There's some people could do it. It would look photorealistic, and I'm amazed at that kind of a natural talent. Yeah. But for doing what we do, it can be taught. As far as I'm concerned, can people do it better than others? Absolutely. Yeah. But just the basics, no, you can teach that. And just open people's eyes up to what I say is just paint what you see.
Do you think that your artistic inspiration growing up was any of it inspired by where you were raised? You're from Memphis.
I'm from Memphis.
Were you raised in an artistic environment, or was it kind of something that just came from within?
I was raised on where the artwork was, black velvet Elvis paintings. A lot of the stuff that I saw, my parents had a restaurant growing up, and they had paintings lined up and down the line where you walked in to get your food. It was a cafeteria style. They were, looking back, were horrible paintings. They were terrible. But I didn't know any better. So I wasn't really raised up in that. I think that the first time that one really hit me, I'd moved to St. Louis and was living there for about 6 years. And Richard Haas did a mural on the outside of a large warehouse there. And it absolutely blew me away. Trompe l'oeil, which means, it's a French term, means to fool the eye. And it was done in such a way that there were columns, there were statues, there were birds flying over, and I'll bet you this thing was probably 15 stories tall. And it just absolutely floored me to see this. But it also, I would look at it and go, I could do that. I had no training, I had no clue about any of it, but to look at it, it was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, but I could do that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until years later that I actually started doing this as a profession.
Yeah.
But my background, I told you when we were talking earlier, contract and commercial interior design. I learned a lot about architectural drafting and perspective and renderings and that type of thing. And I've taken all of what I learned there and applied it to the murals.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So you were raised in Memphis, or born in Memphis. How old were you when you ended up here in Nashville?
Oh, okay, you asked that the wrong way. I have to do math now. It was 32 years ago.
Okay.
So, and I started professionally doing the murals within a year after I got here.
Well,
so
was Nashville, because I've always viewed Nashville as being a very artistic city, as everybody knows at this point.
Oh, it is.
What was there when you moved from Memphis to Nashville? Because I don't know if Memphis is nearly as artistic as Nashville. Was there something that kind of opened up for you where, because that's very quick within a year to go full on into professional mural painting?
Well, I actually came to work here for an office furniture dealership to do sales and interior design, to do design work. And while I was working for them, started doing some work with another designer, and she had a client, and she said they were looking, they wanted this big logo painted. Actually, Bell Mead Drugs. That was my very first one, Bell Mead Drugs. And they just wanted their logo painted on the wall. I said, I could do that.
Yeah.
She goes, really? Sure. So I went out there, borrowed this old rickety wooden ladder from a friend, and got up there and stood on the top of that, taking my life in my own hands. And
no insurance, right?
No, well, of course not. And finding brushes at Walmart or something. I don't know, whatever was hanging around, and probably took me 2 weeks to paint 2 little logos over there.
Yeah.
Today I could probably knock out the whole thing in 2 hours.
Yeah.
But still, that was my first one. It's like, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
And
very humble beginnings.
Oh yeah, and then it just took off from there.
Yeah.
I told my wife that I was dating at the time. I'd gotten divorced and moved here, and Mickey and I started dating, and she had seen some work I had done before in an apartment I was living at in Memphis, and she thought it was wallpaper. It's like, no, I did that last night. She goes, no, you didn't. No, really, I did. Here's the paint. Here's the brushes.
Yeah.
And I painted a whole wall in the apartment. And so anyway, after I got here, I was basically getting tired of the design business. She says, well, why don't you paint murals? You're pretty good at that. It's like, you mean like for a living? She goes, sure.
You're like, all right.
Okay. So I painted, I got these, I made up these cards. They're like fluorescent orange cards.
Yeah.
And
Can't miss them.
And my portfolio consisted of 4x6 pictures that I had taken of little projects I'd done throughout the years. I had to go back and find pictures of them. That was my portfolio.
Yeah.
And went around and called on architects and designers, because I knew most of them. Yeah. And started building up a business. And they were going, you could do that? I said, sure. Then I'd go home and figure out how to do it. And because I had no clue. Yeah. And it took off from there. So here it is 31 years later. And now I'm doing, projects like this. I'm just blown away.
I think what you said is fascinating, because I think that a lot of people try to wait for like the perfect moment to do something, or they wait until like the stars are aligned, but you really just went for it.
Oh no, just did it.
You just went for it and figured it out as you went.
Oh, absolutely.
And it seems like, the people I talk to, it seems like that's a repetitive thing in success stories, is really just going for it and figuring it out as you go. So
absolutely. I do a lot of decorative finishes, marbleizing and wood graining and things like that. Yeah. People would come to me and said, "Can you do this?" I said, "Sure, absolutely."
You go home.
Then I go home, find a book, you find me instructions, practice. But that's how you learn. Yeah, that's how you do it.
So how many? So it's June. No, it's July 3rd right now, 2021.
Right.
You've been in Nashville for 32 years.
Correct.
How many murals have you done in Nashville?
Wow. We actually, some years ago, tried to put a list together, like of a tour of murals that we've done, and it was a good couple of pages, single spaced. I mean, there's so many.
Hundreds, thousands, like what?
Oh, I wouldn't say thousands. Definitely hundreds. Yeah. But and some of them have been around still. They're here. You'll see big exterior ones that have been around for 20 some odd years. But in fact, the Vanderbilt coaches mural, I worked on that one. It was up for 27 years. Kept going back, changing the faces every time they got new coaches. It's kind of like, Vanderbilt was like job security. But anyway, so they've been around for a while, and just during these past few years, there's always been, street art and graffiti art and that type of thing, but it really wasn't that prevalent around town. And I'd say just within the last 5-6 years, it's really exploded. Yeah. And so there's, everybody's a muralist. But to be honest, there's very few, and they do fabulous work. A lot of the graffiti work, a lot of the street art, I couldn't imagine doing. It's done really well. Yeah. But there's still not very many people who do the kind of work that I do. And I'll gratefully own that. Yeah,
where there's a lot of value and experience.
Yeah,
and intuition,
I like to specialize in the trompe l'oeil, in the three-dimensional kind of a treatment to a particular wall.
Now, was that kind of inspired by that 15-story mural that you saw in Memphis?
Absolutely, 100%.
Because when you were describing that, it made me think of the mural that we're going to be talking about here in a minute.
Exactly. That is, I'll give him, Richard Haas, full credit. Yeah. Cool. I've got a couple of his books. I've been to some talks. He's signed them for me. We've talked. I think he's even used some of my brushes. I actually designed and had developed some mural brushes and sent them to him for comment, and he loved them. But cool. But anyway, I digress.
Now I know a lot of people. A lot of people are going to watch this and say, "Oh, you're sitting in it. This is a Masonic lodge."
Correct.
You're not a Mason.
Nope.
The reason why we're here is because you've been doing artwork at this lodge.
Correct.
On 21st, and you did. How long has it been since you did the stairway mural? That was the first one.
Was that might have been done in April?
Okay.
I'll have to ask J. Michael.
Okay.
He's sitting over here. I could look over them and ask him. When was that done? March. I was close.
March.
Okay.
Okay. So this is all very recent. Both of these.
Yes,
Very
both
recent.
of them very recent.
And this is the first time that you've done a job for a Masonic Lodge.
Yes, absolutely.
How was your experience working with Masons on an art piece like this? Was it any different than working with anybody else?
First of all, everybody I worked with was fabulous. Great people to work with. I wish all my clients were as friendly, informative, and accepting as they have been. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening to work on these projects. I knew that there was lots of symbolism involved. I didn't realize to what extent.
Yeah.
Everything, and I'm saying everything that we did meant something, means something.
Yeah.
There is a connection to something greater. And it really, we had to think. We had to think a lot.
Yeah.
And even during the painting process, things had to be changed because I didn't think enough. I didn't ask the right questions. Oh yes, that's east. So that means this has to go over here. Well, if that's east, that means this can't be here. It has to be here. You
didn't know what you were signing up for, man.
Oh, good Lord. It was a fabulous experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely fabulous. I would go into, in fact, I was at a lodge in East Nashville. They called wanting to talk to me about doing some stuff down there. And he says, well, this is what we want, but we can't tell you why we want it because that's, a symbolic kind of a thing. And so I started to explain to him why it was there. He goes, okay, well, I guess you do know, because of all the research that we had to do.
Yeah.
And all the amazing people that we work with that are incredibly knowledgeable about the inner workings of the Masons and what everything means.
Yeah.
So hopefully I soaked up enough of that to help me on some projects.
Now this mural is at the intersection of 21st and what's that side road?
Bernard,
21st and Bernard, right across from J. Christopher's.
Correct.
It's a huge, I don't know the dimensions exactly, maybe you know.
I happen to know the dimensions. It is, right at about 30 foot by 100 foot.
Yeah, and this is, you can see
Give
it,
or take.
You can see it heading south, I believe, is the
Correct.
direction that
Headed south on Hillsborough. Excuse me, on 21st.
Yeah, on 21st, away from downtown.
Correct. If you're headed to the Green Hills Mall, make a stop.
That's where you're going to see
That's
it.
the one.
For me, the very first time that I saw it, what stood out to me was the pop that the colors had,
Yes.
the contrast. Because I see some paintings and it's almost easy to drive by them and miss them.
Right.
But this one really stands out. It's in your face, but it's not loud. It's proud. Was that intentional? Was there a reason why you chose those specific colors? Was this requested by the lodge? Was this something that you kind of decided on implementing?
We decided on a lot of the colors, but we did so in conjunction with J. Michael, with Matthew, with Patrick Craddock,
Yeah.
to make sure that everything was accurate, and we wanted to replicate a lot of the colors that were inside this very lodge itself.
Yeah.
But the colors we used, I didn't want anything garish. That's not what this is about. Wanted a lot of natural colors, but we wanted some good contrast as well. Like you said, I didn't want things to be mudded up. I didn't want it to disappear.
Yeah.
I want, the whole purpose of doing this was to have eyeballs on the wall,
Yeah.
and therefore eyeballs on the Masons and the Masonic Lodge.
Yeah.
You want people to ask questions.
It's important.
Absolutely.
Now, you had told me that you've been after that wall for like 30 years.
Oh, it's a great wall.
You've known about this wall.
Oh,
and you just have-
absolutely.
So what is it about, take us into the mind of a muralist. When you saw this wall for the first time, what went through your head?
That's an amazing canvas.
Yeah.
That is a canvas. It screams for something.
Yeah.
It's, for the most part, except for a few windows on it, it's a blank wall.
Yeah.
And that's, most people. My wife is, she grew up in the electrical business, electrical supplies. They sold stuff to like NES and people like that.
Cool.
So so she would drive by and go, "Oh, look, a substation." you know, her father probably sold all the stuff that went into that substation. It's like, "Oh, wow, a substation." Me, I'm the one that goes, "Oh, look, a wall."
So you're just constantly, as you're driving, seeing walls.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like
It's empty canvas.
Yeah.
Now, it's not necessarily we need to put something there. There needs to be a purpose. There needs to be a reason, not just simply, for the sake of having something. I don't do that. But to me, this seemed like a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So when J. Michael gave me a call and said, we'd like to talk to you about this wall, it's like, oh, it's about time.
Yeah.
Finally.
I think it's fascinating. I mean, one of my favorite pieces of Masonic symbolism is a rough ashlar and a smooth ashlar.
Yes.
Are you familiar with these? So I almost view that mural before it was painted as being a rough ashlar.
Okay.
Being just something that had potential but had not been crafted yet. And now,
well, see, there's more symbolism.
Now, through what you've done to that wall, you've taken that piece of rough ashlar and you've turned it into something that's attractive to the eye, and I think it's beautiful. So how were you approached by the lodge? How did they find you? Or was it you had a friend of a friend, or was it somebody reached out to you online? Do you remember what that first phone call was?
No.
Okay.
I think, and pardon me, I'm gonna go off camera here. How did you? I know I asked you.
Found you on the internet.
Google.
There's 2 here, and I said, "Well, let me try this one."
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Google.
So J. Michael called you.
J. Michael gave me a call.
Cool.
And absolutely, but I will give credit to my web guru who takes care of my website.
Yeah.
We really work on the SEO on that. But it's funny, as many, and sometimes, no offense, sometimes I do take offense at somebody, I found you on Google. Really? I've got 1,000 murals around this town. Every one of them's a business card. I've got my name and phone number at the bottom of them.
Yeah.
So how'd you find me? Did you see one of my walls? No, I just Googled you.
Googled.
Seriously? So
Power of the internet.
Oh yeah, but that's even before that. How'd you find me? Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, you didn't see that huge mural over there on? No, just Yellow Pages. That's all I did. So
yeah.
Anyway.
So J. Michael called you,
right?
And I'm guessing he just had you come over and take
right.
a look. And you already knew about this wall.
I knew the wall. I absolutely knew the wall.
Thank God.
I didn't know that it was honestly a Masonic lodge.
Yeah.
I might somewhere in the depths, it was just Freeman's. Mm-hmm. It was Freeman's Army Surplus. Yeah. That's who it was. So when he called me out, I didn't realize that really there was a lodge here. But the more I looked at it, it's like, well, yeah, there's symbolism all over the place.
Yeah.
In fact, we even repainted the columns and the wall. The honorable blue is the color that we used. So that was the first part of it, and then we worked on the interior, then the exterior. But no, I had never realized it being a lodge.
When you realized that, did you have any sort of history? Did you know Masons? Did you know anything about Masonry before you started talking to J. Michael?
Probably not any more than watching the Da Vinci Code.
Okay. Yeah.
That was the depth of my knowledge as far as Masons. I knew there was a lot of symbolism involved.
Yeah.
Read a couple of Dan Brown books, and that was it. And didn't realize how pervasive it is through everything.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it was a blast getting down in the weeds.
Yeah.
Learning as much as I did.
At this point, after doing those 2 murals, you're probably somewhat proficient in a lot of the symbols and understanding.
I could sit and talk with you all day long.
Yeah. So how was that? Because obviously you were working, but this is also like it seems like a big educational experience.
Oh, absolutely. And developed a lot of respect.
Yeah.
For everything that you guys are about and what you do.
Yeah. What was talking about the actual mural on the outside itself now? you started in the bottom left corner, is that correct? Where did you start this mural? What was the process like when you had your team come out? What did the time lapse of structure kind of look like to putting that
I
whole thing
can't tell
together?
you that. That's a secret.
Well, then you won't tell us your
That's
secrets,
right,
and we'll
that's right.
keep our secrets.
That's right, exactly. It's a little quid pro quo here. Quid pro quo. No. Obviously the first thing we do is we'll prime the wall.
Yeah.
We'll make sure everything's good and solid and clean and we have a good surface to work on. But physically, to start, the first thing you do is establish a vanishing point.
Yeah.
It's done with a strong perspective, as if it is viewed from either driving down Hillsborough towards the wall or walking down the sidewalk. So almost from the corner of the building, that is where the vanishing point, if you will, perspective is from. And so we set that. Then everything emanates from that. Everything.
Wow, that's fascinating. So everything can be traced to this single point.
Single point, 5 foot 6 inches
Wow.
up on the side of the wall.
That's fascinating. That's very interesting. And you were telling me that if that's not oriented right, see, people don't notice it if it's right, but if it's wrong.
If it's wrong, it drives you. It's like being in a room that's not quite level.
Yeah.
It's like looking at a picture on the wall that somebody has touched and it's not square.
Yeah.
You'll see it and it'll drive you nuts.
Makes me think of, I went to App State and I lived in Boone, North Carolina, and we had this
I did a project there.
in Boone?
Yeah,
Which
sure
one?
did.
Where was it?
When you walk in downtown, it's a big logo, and it says, I think it says "Welcome to Boone" or something, and it has the
On King
elevation or something like
on
that.
King
It's right
Street?
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
on kind of near the stadium, is it?
it's right dead downtown,
Cool.
and sure did.
So Boone, there's this place, it's kind of like a Ripley's museum.
Uh-huh.
You're talking about like being in a room where the ground's not level.
Oh,
I don't know if
yes,
you've been
I've
in one of
been
these
those.
rooms
Yes,
where the
you
tiles,
get dizzy.
Yeah, the tiles are off and
Yes.
it throws you off. And it's flat, it's perfectly flat, but just the perception of the way that it's painted makes you go crazy.
Yep.
You can't, it's just interesting. It made me think of that, I think that's really cool. So you said you put primer, do you guys have to go over and like pressure wash the whole side of the building to clean something up for something like this?
Well, we make sure the wall is, first of all, is clean. If it's already clean, unless it's some obvious loose paint and things like that, we don't have to do anything like that. But by priming it, that gives us a good fresh coat to go with, something to grip the paint real well.
Yeah.
I want this mural to be there for a long time. So not only do we use top quality exterior acrylics, but we'll also even put a clear coat over the top of it that's got a UV filter.
Cool.
So that'll help it not fade. So it'll be like it is for many, many, many years.
That's cool. How long do you think, do you go back ever on any of your old murals and reapply that coat?
We haven't yet, hasn't needed it,
Yeah.
but I would say on something like this, 10 years, you might put another clear coat on it.
Wow.
15 years, but it lasts a long time.
It's pretty cool. So, one of the things that I was asking you when we were outside was, because this is a very symbolically intensive project, and I think that you said this was kind of the first one that had such deep meaning in every single piece.
Absolutely.
What was it like to kind of take on a project like that for the first time? Did you have to like call any audibles in the way that you were planning it? Was there anything that maybe came up that you weren't expecting? What kind of things came up where, what kind of obstacles did you have to overcome with this one?
Obstacles.
Yeah.
Not necessarily obstacles, challenges.
Okay.
Because, and welcome them all, because it made it that much more exciting. It wasn't just a standard, no project's boring. Okay, yes, some are. But it was truly exciting because everything meant something.
Yeah.
And so our research that we did just took us deeper and deeper into the different symbols and how many there are.
Yeah.
Which to me was fascinating. Everything. So we had to be very careful about what went where. we had to be very aware of even the compass points.
Yeah.
Even in this room we're sitting in right now, I can tell you, which direction and how many steps are behind me on that platform. There's 3 there, there's 2 here, there's 1 there. So, I mean, it just, of course, painting the mural, didn't realize the detail like that. And we had to change a few things during the process because they simply weren't right.
Yeah.
And, we talked about it, and it's like, well, does it really need to be that? Somebody will say something.
Yeah.
And that's not right, and that would be their focus, and that's not what we wanted.
Yeah.
So we made things correct. I think even the colors that we started to use on the coffered ceiling, if you will, that we put into the depth. Originally, we had the colors coming from front to back. From sunrise to sunset. And as it turns out, nope, that's right, because that way south, that's north, so the sun rises in the east and west, wherever it rises.
East.
Yeah, thank you. And so so we had to have it that way from left to right.
Yeah.
And so we changed that. And even so, from the very beginning, we had to adjust on the fly because it wasn't caught in the approved drawings. We really didn't do that much color, just mostly the drawings. So when we started getting into it, I had to adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
And I welcomed it. We're going to do it right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I think the last thing that I want to ask, I think the last thing that I want the viewers to know. So if somebody's going to come and see this mural, I want to put them in your head. What is your favorite component of the side of Doric Lodge?
Wow.
Which piece do you want somebody to maybe spend a couple extra minutes looking at?
If you break it down individually, I mean, I love the I love the scene with the tree, the hanging sheaf of wheat, the falling water, the sun. I love that. I love the Johns, St. John the Baptist, St. John the Evangelist. Those are done real well. I love the door leading into the middle chamber. Mm-hmm. I think that was done real well. It's difficult to have a very favorite piece because even each individual area can stand on its own. Yeah. So I love the coffers. I love the way the color blends from light to dark. I thought that turned out exquisite. Favorite, yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah, well,
the whole thing is a favorite.
We definitely. The corner of Bernard is the name. Bernard and 21st. Corner of Bernard and 21st.
Yep, that's it.
Friedman Surplus, right across from J. Christopher's.
That's it.
As many people as possible should come and see this because
absolutely.
It's truly a work of art.
I can't tell you how many tens of thousands of cars drive by every day.
Yeah.
And I just absolutely know a bunch of them have stopped and flipped around the building just to stand out front to see what's going on because it is, I'm sorry, it is a work of art.
Yeah.
It turned out fabulous.
Well, Michael, thank you for taking some time to come and chat with us
about this.
my pleasure.
Pleasure.
It's been great getting to know you, and I'm glad that you've got to kind of get a taste of what the fraternity stands for and participate in helping us spread the word. And we appreciate everything that you've done for us.
Thank you very much. That means a lot.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Pleasure getting to know you.
Again, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the Listener's Lodge today. And if you're ever in Nashville, stop by Doric Lodge and take a look at this miraculous work of art. Also, if you would like to see video of this episode and images of this mural, please visit the Listener's Lodge on YouTube, where this episode is available. Thank you again for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.